America should be the worldwide leader in Wi-Fi, 5G, and 6G, talking about connecting every American to the world's best networks, offering up for free plenty of the spectrum, the 600 megahertz in the one big beautiful bill. So I wanted to have you on to ask about the specifics of this plan. People have heard about 5G, but I don't think people have really understood the difference between 5G. This now talk about 6G. How does Wi-Fi come into the play? I'm still trying to figure out how to get my hands on my own personal Starlink. So if you could help me out with that, I'd really appreciate it. But walk us through what President Trump is planning here.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about Wi-Fi first, because that one's easy. America is already the world leader in Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi started out with the idea that we should be able to take what was then considered sort of garbage spectrum. It's the same frequencies that microwaves operate on, which is why your microwave sometimes used to wash out your router in the old days. So it was sort of low value spectrum. And there was this thought that, well, what if we just open it up and let people experiment? The Wi-Fi family of protocols came out of that, and thus a lot of home networking was born. And of course, we haven't remained idle in that one since. We've expanded Wi-Fi to much higher bands, to the 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz bands, and there's been very rapid adoption there. Now, the United States is the unquestioned leader in world Wi-Fi, because there are a lot of countries where the 6 gigahertz band, which is where Wi-Fi 7, the fastest, newest version of the protocol, lives. There are a lot of countries where that band is used primarily for cell phones. That's the Chinese position, that they don't want that band used for Wi-Fi. They want it used for cell phones, for 5G connectivity on cell phones. And so countries that want some amount of American technology and some amount of Chinese technology find themselves sort of caught in the middle. They have to make a choice. Some Latin American countries have gone with the primarily American model. Some Asian countries have gone with the primarily Chinese model. Some European countries have sort of split it 50-50 and divided the band into a Wi-Fi part and a cell phone part. My own view is that Wi-Fi has proven very resilient, adaptable, and that our efforts to keep expanding access to Wi-Fi have been good. So we're already the world leader there, and I think the president's just acknowledging that fact. Let me take 6G now. People are wondering, hey, well, we got 5G. 4G is when we got broadband on our phones around 2012 to 2014. So what the heck is 6G? I think right now 6G is more of an idea than an actual product that you can buy. So when the president is talking about opening up spectrum for 6G, he's talking about making sure that we have frequencies and power levels and contours mapped out, so that when it comes time to get to the next wireless mobility protocol, we've got a place to park it so that we can get the receivers and transmitters configured appropriately and not run into other services with that. Finally, with 5G, that's really the $64 billion question. I say that billion with a B advisedly. That number is probably too low, because American companies have spent hundreds of billions of dollars on the necessary licenses and equipment. It's the same in Europe, although they're a little behind on spending and their 5G connectivity is not as good. But China has put huge investments in this in industrial applications where we haven't yet really caught up. So I think there, when you look at what the president wants to do with reshoring industry and with strengthening our defense sector, as well as getting to next generation defense technologies, it's obvious that this road runs through 5G smart manufacturing. Also an aspect of international competition, because if we want to be able to compete against China in port development projects and other large-scale international industrial projects, we're going to need 5G as the networking protocol, because that's become the worldwide standard.
And so the idea opening up is that companies will be able to then bid for this various space as it becomes open. Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's a great point, Jack. I'm glad you focused on that part, because the technique that we pioneered in the United States for figuring out who should be allowed to use what frequencies was simply to auction them off. The idea is that if you have a business plan and you can convince a bank to lend you the money to buy the licenses, and some other fellow can't get a loan to acquire the licenses, then the banks have more confidence in your business plan than the other guys. And we've just used that pricing mechanism to figure out what the public is most likely to benefit from. So this concept of spectrum auctions is about 30 years old. And there was a Nobel Prize awarded for it to an American professor in 2018. Spectrum auctions are here to stay, and they've been adopted the world over. The alternative is for the government to pick winners and hold beauty contests where they decide just on the basis of some proposal what frequencies to allocate to what players. The thing is, first of all, that's inefficient. Second, it leads very often to corruption because if those licenses have a higher use, better use that's worth more, then the incumbent will flip them and pocket the proceeds. And they shouldn't be doing that because the spectrum is a public trust that belongs inherently to all Americans. That's why when the president says we're going to sell this 600 megahertz of spectrum and commercialize it, that's another way of saying he's going to make the wireless industry bid on it for access and then return the money to the treasury.